Southern Rail have run a disruptive and far from satisfactory service for 18 months now, even before industrial action started in April. I'm here at Lewes Station to find out how this has affected commuters and local businesses. Soraya, where should you actually be today?
I should be actually at my leaving do at Portsmouth University, where I've worked for 4 years, and I'm leaving today because I actually had to resign because of my inability to get to work because of the rail strike.
What will happen business-wise if things continue in this way?
Well, if it continues like this, then we'll probably have no option but to close the shop because we won't be able to meet our bills, unfortunately, which is very sad. We've been trading for nearly 30 years. We actually used to have our newsagents actually at Lewes railway station across the road for over 25 years, moved out of there because of Southern Rail hiking up the rent increases and moved over the road here, and now Southern is still affecting us.
I'm at Seaford Station, one of the worst affected stations during the Southern Rail dispute, where passengers have a bus replacement service to and from Lewes.
I have to work in London about 3 times a week. This week I haven't been able to go in at all. The last 8 months have been a nightmare. The commute's been horrendous. Services to Seaford are constantly delayed, cancelled, changed at the last minute. So the whole thing's been awful really all year.
In the summer they cut over 80% of our trains. They did put on a bus service, but it wasn't very good in that it added half an hour to your journey. And also you can only get 50 people on a bus and you can get a lot more on a train. So some people are coming back from London and having to wait 3/4 of an hour for a bus.
My employer so far has been fairly flexible. However, I think if this goes on much further into January, that's going to change. I've been working from home, but it's really, really difficult and people are losing their jobs. The town is suffering. We didn't have many tourists in the summer. Normally we have a lot of tourists coming here, but if you can't get here, they don't come.
And what do you think should have happened with Southern Rail? How has it got to this state and what needs to happen?
Well, it just feels like we're just kind of collateral. They don't seem to really care, and it seems to be this sort of standoff between Southern Rail management, the government and the unions, and the staff are amazing. I can't fault the staff in their ability to try to get us to where we needed to go. Southern are being paid huge amounts of money for a failing service, and actually their franchise should be taken away from them. It really is quite disgusting. In any other business I couldn't in my job not deliver, but it seems absolutely fine for them to not deliver, then get paid bonuses, then get paid, then the government are paying the compensation for our trains being late.
Something needs to be done. The government needs to step in and do something. They really do, for everybody's sake. It's just affecting so many people and not just the commuters.
Commuters and local businesses alike are seething and call ever more inventive excuses for delayed and cancelled trains unfunny jokes. Incredibly, for all of us, the jokes just keep on coming, unlike the trains.
If you want a pictorial history of Glynde in the first half of the 20th century, you can do no better than to examine Andrew Lusted's fantastic postcard collection, 600 or so postcards of Glynde and Beddingham from that era. Andrew, what's your oldest postcard?
Well, the earliest postcard I've got is a publicity postcard of the Glynde Creameries, which stood in the middle of the village. And you can tell it's the earliest because it had a single back, it wasn't a split back, so you had to write the address on the back and the message come on the front with a small picture. And that was stayed in place until about 1903. After that, they had a split back where you could put the message and the address on the back and the whole picture on the front. As soon as the post office changed the rules about the postcards, created a huge boom. Hundreds of thousands were published in the sort of years immediately before the First World War.
Now, you've got this postcard here of, looks like spring gardens with a family standing outside.
One of the things that photographers did, as well as coming around and taking pictorial photographs cards, they would also go knock on people's doors and say, would you like a family photograph taken? They'd sell you 10, 12 copies for a few pence.
And Glynde being Glynde, the descendants of those people are still here, are they?
Well, some of them, not now. The last 20 years it's changed hugely, but luckily I've been collecting these for quite a long time.
And this is a lovely postcard, which is in colour. Is it hand-tinted?
Yeah, they're by the Mezzotint Company of Brighton. That coloured one there is actually of Glynde shop with my great-grandfather standing outside of it. So it's quite a special postcard to me.
And what year would that be from?
That is 1904-5.
1904-5.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about these postcards, which is delightful, is that Glynde hasn't changed very much over those years.
No, very little. I mean, there are one or two things, like the movement of cattle and sheep around the village, farming practices. That's been the main change, and of course the traffic. I mean, there are no cars in any of these early postcards.
No, but we have got the hunt here at Beddingham.
Yeah, Beddingham, a very popular thing. Homeward, A.H. Homeward, publisher of Burgess Hill, they like to go around and photograph the hunt. There was some in Glynde. They also took one at Beddingham at what is now the Beddingham roundabout.
It's unrecognisable from the postcard.
Completely unrecognisable. Yeah.
Now, 600 postcards or thereabouts. How many are there you haven't got?
Glynde is very lucky having far more postcards than most places have got. The annual Boys Brigade camp, for instance, first appeared in Glynde Park in 1918. They still come today, but between the wars, they published maybe 30 postcards every year of the activities. A photographer would come out, he'd photograph the boys and their parents and what was going on, and playing cricket and so on. And then when they went back to Brighton, he'd sell them lots of postcards.
Is this normal for villages? I mean, would another village like Ripe or Berwick, would they have some similar number?
Nothing like this.
Why was Glynde so particular then?
The Boys Brigade, obviously, and then there was a local photographer, Tom Pickard, who was the agent for the estate. He took lots of photographs of farm work on the estate, and he issued some of those as postcards as well. So Glynde's got a much richer source of postcards than most villages have.
Now you've got a postcard here with somebody who looks like they got one arm. Who's that?
Yeah, this is Harry Hastings. He lost his arm in an accident in the carpenter's shop. He worked for the Glynde estate. And he got a job as village postman, delivering the mail around Glynde. There was two of them delivering the mail. There's another one operating a steam traction engine, during the threshing season up at New Barn in Glynde.
How can people see these photographs, these postcards? Because they're a wonderful collection. It's a shame that they're not on public display.
Eventually, these postcards will be deposited at the Keep at Moulscombe, which is the home of the East Sussex Record Office.
Well, that's great, Andrew. We'll look forward to seeing them at the Keep, because people who live in Glynde or nearby really should appreciate these. Fantastic collection. Thanks very much for having us along today.
That was a pleasure.
So, 8 station staff in those days. Now there are none. And being southern, no trains either.
This is the sound of the tenor saxophone. My favourite saxophone, I love it. And this is Mr. Dennis Baptiste, one of the UK's finest, international standard tenor saxophone players. Tenor saxophone is probably my favourite of all the saxophones. There's lots of different types: tenor, alto, soprano, even baritone. But this, I think, is the loveliest because it's right in the mid-range. It's got that lovely, fruity, deep sound, but it's capable of going high as well. It's also capable of very fast playing. And Mr. Dennis Baptiste, who's playing it for us here, is a player of consummate ability who can do everything from a soft ballad to a mad Charlie Parker-esque kind of solo. There are a lot of sax players in the world, there's a lot in the UK, there's a lot of tenor sax players, but Dennis is one of the finest.
overindulge over the Christmas period, so in January thoughts naturally turn towards improving our diets. Today we're at Tina's kitchen on Lewes High Street with nutritional therapist Tina Deubert, who knows that nurturing good eating habits needn't be a struggle.
I think the majority of people are better on a mixed diet, so that's including meat and fish and lots of vegetables. I think low carbohydrate is the way that we all need to go. I think most of our food has been built around carbohydrates, so most of our meals are carbohydrate based and then stuff on top, and the carbs are being shown to be a big problem for all of us with weight, with cancer, heart disease, diabetes. We need to change the proportions of the things we eat. You know, people think that January is a thing about detoxing, but actually, you know, we create toxins in our body just by digestive processes, just by breathing, by everything that happens normally, even in a clean environment. And our liver and our skin and our lungs have to work at that to detoxify.
I asked Tina, how do we eat better in the colder months?
Yeah, really it's veg. I mean, that's what we're about. It's sort of the food that we do every day of the week helps you detox. That's what we should all be doing, really. No blitz in January, just do it all the time. A lot of people find that eating raw food doesn't suit them in the winter and that cooked food is better. So in that case, sort of slow cooked stews with lots of vegetables and good quality meat. You can stick a couple of bones in as well to extract the goodness from those. That would be good. So we're just making a frittata here, which is feta cheese and courgette. And I think it's a really good thing. I mean, basically it's an omelette, but it is the most easy family meal that you can do, and you can do it in one pan, and that'll serve 8 people. So because I'm going to use 12 eggs, but you could use less eggs, sort of work it out for about 2 eggs per person if you're doing a family. So I've got I'm going to put this one's going to have 12, because we're going to have 8 slices out of this. My daughter described the shop as a front for my nutrition business. It's quite a nice way of putting it, because this is the publicity and this is how people get to hear about what I do. And I run 5-week courses on healthy eating, and it keeps getting renamed, and at the moment it's called Nutrition in a Nutshell, and it actually does help to change habits, which is what it's all about. It's not about a quick fix or just a one session thing. So that's what I try and do. So that's going to have some kale in it now. So greens are really good. None of us eat enough greens, so we put green stuff in most of the food that we make. So this got a teaspoon of black pepper in it. Black pepper is a really useful thing to use, again, in lots of dishes, because it helps you to absorb the nutrients in the food. It's just one of those, I don't know why, but it's been shown that that's what it does. So whatever you're eating, a little bit of black pepper is going to help you get more out of it. And I'm not going to cook the greens really thoroughly, because they'll carry on cooking in the egg.
Tina combines the seasoned vegetables and feta cheese with beaten eggs and pours into the pan. When the eggs are just set, the frittata is transferred to the grill to finish cooking.
I think about food so you don't have to. So the idea is that I'm thinking about your nutrition, your health, and all the food here is actually designed to help people feel better.
So there it is, a healthy lunch and no effort. Thanks, Tina.
Nothing says Britain quite like having a dinghy race in the pouring rain on New Year's Day. I've come down to Piddinghoe Lake, which sits alongside the River Ouse, to watch the New Year's Day race run by Newhaven and Seaford Sailing Club. 9 racers will be taking part today in the hopes to come first and win the trophy. A circuit has been designed around the lake, and our racers are now crossing the starting line. This first stretch of the lake takes some time to get through before the sails turn into the wind direction, sending them speed into the next corner. Four laps of the circuit later, and the first boats begin to cross the finish line. In first place, the Sailing Club's Vice Commodore, Rupert Smith.
And in first place, standing victory, Rupert!
Normally have a couple of races each Sunday. Special today is a bit late because we're all trying to get our heads a bit clearer. And we have 2 series over the winter, up to Christmas and then Christmas and beyond. And then end of March we all move down to the sea where the bigger, faster stuff comes in with waves and tide and a different type of sailing. I wouldn't say it's better or worse, it's just very different. And it's the other side of the sailing.
I'm the training director of the Newhaven Seaford Sailing Club. So my job as a senior instructor is to organise my team of instructors. We get novices into the boats and then sailing competently in 4 days. So it's a huge fun for me. I come down here as regularly as I can. I look after the boats here. I teach myself on the pond here. I also am a powerboat instructor, so I can teach powerboating, and we train our own rescue crews to go out on the sea when we're racing at the weekends. Today was good, 9 boats out, close, all keen competitors, some from the age of, I think the youngest one is 17 and the oldest one is 78. So no, he's doing well. Although the weather's not good today, down here, when it's sunny, it is glorious. Nice place to come for a picnic and a barbecue as well.
A huge cadet section for the youngsters on Monday nights, which is absolutely colossal. It's our biggest asset we've got. And anyone can do it. You can start any time. It's all encompassing. So many things you can do with it.
While I didn't have a chance to get on the lake today, I have no doubt I'll be back at Piddinghoe very soon. Maybe when it's a bit warmer.
Lewes Priory is one of the greatest medieval monasteries in England, with over 100 resident monks and properties elsewhere across England and France. And some of this information is contained in this book by our local mayor, Graham Mayhew, The Monks of St Pancras. What inspired you to write this book, Graham?
Well, I used to come here and play putting with my father on the putting green that was up there when I was about 8, I think. So I've always grown up knowing about the buildings being here, and it always seemed to me somebody needed to write a proper history of it. So in the end, when I'd sort of felt I had enough experience to do it, I decided that's what I would do, and it took about 10 years.
How significant was the monastery for Lewes itself?
Well, roughly a quarter of the town's population depended upon it economically. About 100 plus families, so about 400 of the 1,600 residents would have been directly dependent upon Lewes Priory, and a lot of the tradesmen, in addition to that, would have been buying and selling stuff to and from it. So, very significant indeed. It would have been the town's main employer.
And what was the impact on the town when Henry VIII decided to destroy it?
Well, there must have been an immediate slump, because suddenly you would lose all of that economic input into the town, and it would have taken, I would have thought, 20, 30 years for the town to recover.
What was the most startling thing you discovered in your research?
I think probably just the international importance of Lewes Priory. I hadn't appreciated, for example, that it produced one of the regents of Normandy, the Archbishop of Rouen, who was a former prior of Lewes, and for something like 20 years ran Normandy for Henry I when the king was in England. That's one of the most significant things. I also found recently that one of the Lewes monks had been abbot of the monastery of Mont Saint-Michel. They held a lot of very top positions. Another one became abbot of Cluny.
Did the importance of the monastery in clerical terms lead to a big boost for Lewes in secular terms?
Yes, I think so, because just about every single English monarch, with a couple of exceptions, visited Lewes Priory over the years. So Lewes was an important political centre in a sense. It was something that was a necessary stop on the King's royal itinerary.
Now, in terms of the monks and what they did down here, they were very involved in wool production, I believe.
Lewes was the biggest single wool-producing monastery in England at the end of the 13th century, round about twice as large as any other monastery in terms of the flocks of sheep. The South Downs didn't produce the best wool in the country, but in terms of bulk and in terms of the total value of the annual contract, yes, Lewes was extremely important.
Do you think there's anything we can do to enhance the rooms or make them more available to the public?
it's never been properly excavated. So most of the knowledge we have of the building is from eyewitness descriptions at the time of the demolition. And so it would be really fantastic if at some point we could actually have a fully funded dig that would enable us to work out the precise outlines of the church. And no doubt there's an awful lot to be discovered just underground.
Now, this enormous tome of yours that you've written, which must have taken a very long time to put together.
The sources are so disparate, they're all over the place. Some of them are in the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris. There are various ones in archives all over England, from Yorkshire to Leicestershire to the Bodleian Library.
It's a fascinating story. If you want to know about Lewes Priory, there's no more detailed volume than this book by Graham Mayhew, available at Lewes Town Hall.